extra resources, just click yes, and then we'll email it to you afterwards. And the form has been linked. It's cutly.ly/collab form. And also the design files is the cutly.ly/redesign files. Okay. So if anyone has any like issues or questions, just type it into Zoom and I'll keep an eye on it and address it. Cool. Okay. Jasmine, do you want me to give the intro now?
Yeah, sure.
Ready to go?
Ahead.
Okay. So hi everyone. So thanks so much for coming. I can't actually see you all because I think there's a few of you. Okay, cool. Yeah, so my name's April and I'm just gonna quickly introduce Mac so you guys know who we are and what we do. I'm part of this society and we usually refer to it with our shorthand name called Mac. So Mac came to life because we basically wanted to foster a programming culture at Monash University. We wanted to help drive innovation and collaboration on campus. And we really wanted to have an avenue for students to teach each other things and also for students to learn with each other. So when we made this, we were really addressing a gap where there was nowhere on campus to really learn technical skills that you would bring outside of university. And also when you go into industry, you realize a lot of the things that you learn you didn't really get exposed to in your time here. So this is mainly a technical club that focuses on enhancing your technical skills. And with workshops like these, we also want to give students the ability to explore different career paths within tech. So we're called Monash Association of Coding, but this is obviously UX, and this is obviously about redesigning a website. And we just wanted to show students that you don't necessarily have to code to go into tech. There's a lot of different pathways, and this is one of them, and Jasmine's really good at what she does here. But the common denominator has always been that every single workshop that we have, we want it to be practical and we want it to add value to your skill set. So hopefully after this, you'll get a hands-on feel on how to redesign a website and also get an intro to Illustrator, which does take a bit of time to learn. So COVID-19 has kind of been straying us away from that. Like we've been trying to do workshops with sponsors that are more practical, but it's always been the essence of Mac, and hopefully when things go back to normal, we'll go back to actually seeing you guys in real life and collaborating with each other and teaching each other things. So that's all from me, and without further ado, I'll hand over to Jasmine to start the workshop.
Thank you. Okay, so this is actually my first event, so if anything's not clear, just call out everyone or just message it on the chat and I'll happily repeat whatever I just said. So yeah, to start off, I just wanted to introduce myself quickly. So my name is Jasmine, if that wasn't clear enough already from all the posts we made. And basically, I'm gonna start off with a quick intro with my background. So I'm actually a third year student right now, currently studying IT, actually just moved there. So basically for the first 2 years, I've had like kind of swapped between a lot of degrees like software engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, but now I think I'm finally set on IT. And basically I like spending my free time working on some UX case studies and also working on game design projects. And so also part of Monash Association of Coding. I'm the marketing director. Yeah, so feel free to check out our social media if you haven't already. And so if you want to see any more of my other works, you can, like my portfolio link is right there on the screen. Yeah, pretty easy. Cool. So next slide. Our topics that we're going to be covering for today, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between user experience and user interface design. And then we're going to talk about the stages of UI design and like what the processes are. And then we'll move on to doing our website analysis, where we look into what the current state of the website is and like what changes we can make to it. And then we're going to do a little bit of research. And then finally, we'll go into our redesign like part of the workshop, which is going to be a little bit more hands-on. And I'm hoping to have like at least 1.5 hours for that. So we have plenty of time for you guys to like learn and ask questions. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start off by just discussing user experience and user interface. So some of you guys might have heard of these two terms, and you'll probably notice that a lot of people just kind of throw these two words around to kind of mean the same thing, but really they're not, and like they're actually quite different. So user experience is like the user's end-to-end journey with like a product. So this end-to-end like journey covers the time from when you actually acquire the product, you know, kind of like maybe buying it or installing it, to actually owning it, using it, maybe even troubleshooting, and also finally probably disposing it, you know. Yeah, so basically the behavior of the product and like the experience that users have throughout this entire process is what UX designers are like always trying to improve. So basically a product with good UX is something that is like very seamless and relatively easy to use. So UX is actually everywhere around you, you know, it's really broad. You'll see in a lot of your everyday life. It doesn't have to stay in the digital world. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, UX is just apps and websites. But like really, it can go into the physical world as well. And an example that I like to use is IKEA. So basically, because I'm from Perth, I moved to Melbourne and I had to buy a lot of my furniture and I had to buy like a lot of them. And there's just a lot of things going on. But luckily, you know, IKEA made my transition really easy. All I had to do was, let me just show you guys here. All I had to do was go onto their website, and here for every product that I needed at my house, all I had to do is go to the website and I can clearly see where each of the items I wanted are located right there. And if I go into other stuff, you can even see like which aisle it is, which shelf. Like I'm sure you're all familiar with like the aisles and shelves in IKEA and where these are. And so thanks to that, they made it really easy for me to actually get the product, and that's the acquiring stage. You also probably noticed that IKEA has a lot of, how do I call this one? Sorry. Yeah. So IKEA has a lot of like pencils, rulers, and pens like all around their stores. And like all this is just making it easy for you to like, like get the products that you want so that you don't have to memorize all of the locations. So yeah, that's all part of the user experience. And then once you're actually home and you start to like actually own the product, that's when you kind of like develop a sense of attachment to your IKEA finisher. Because, you know, like when you're building the product, you're like, oh, hey, I built it myself. I spent so much time on this. And, you know, this is kind of like a little bit going to like psychology. But basically, once you build your furniture, your brain kind of releases these reward chemicals and makes you feel good because of this accomplishment. And with that, you kind of feel attached to the furniture, and it makes your experience like a lot more enjoyable because you built it yourself compared to just like buying it somewhere online. Yeah, and then once you're done with the actual furniture, IKEA has this program called their removal and recycling program, and all you have to do is like bring your furniture back, and then they even give you credit for it. And so by doing that, you kind of feel like you did a really nice thing by recycling this product and getting money back for it even. So then after that, you kind of want to go back to IKEA even more, and then the process kind of like repeats all over again. So yeah, this is kind of like the entire cycle. Remember, you kind of like went to IKEA to buy the product, and then you started building it, and then you used it throughout your life, and then you kind of like getting rid of it towards the end. So this whole thing is user experience. It's not just kind of like downloading an app, using it, deleting it, and then never seeing it ever again. Yeah, so that's UX design. It's all about thinking about your users and making sure that they get what they want in like the easiest way possible. Okay, so does that make sense to everyone so far? Cool. Yeah, okay. Now we're gonna go into user interfaces. So the user interface is what you're interacting with when you're trying to use a product. This is actually going to be more of the focus of our today's workshop. So it's going to be less on user experience and more about the interface. So looking back into the IKEA example, when you're building the furniture, the user interface is the instruction manual. So, and this is actually like a really good example of what makes a good user interface, because IKEA instruction manuals are like, they can be pretty much be understood by people all over the world. It doesn't matter what language you speak or like how old you are, right? So this is for the IKEA example. So in the context of the digital world, like UI can pretty much be anywhere from websites to apps or even like personal assistants. So just to give you an example, when you're trying to get a ride from Uber, like what you're interacting with is the Uber app. So the Uber app is the UI. So the Uber, like the ride that you're ordering is the product, and what you're interacting with is the UI, which is the app, which is what you see on the screen. I don't know what language this is. I just took that from Google Images. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of people generally think of UI design as just like the graphical user interface like this. It's something that you see and interact with, but really it's like it can also be something that you control with your voice, kind of like personal assistants like Siri and Alexa. However, like for this workshop, we're not going to touch much on that, and we're going to really just focus on the graphical user interface, which is a website. Yeah, so in summary, user interface design is just the process of like designing the appearance and the visual elements of your user interface. And like as designers, what we want to be able to do is to create designs that users will have like will have no trouble, or like we just want users to be able to use the apps as easily as possible. So I just wanted to make a note that in a lot of larger companies, like these two roles are like very specific, and they're completely separate. Sometimes they might even split the actual UX role into like different groups, like researchers, testers, prototypes. But if you go into a smaller company, a lot of these roles kind of just like blur together. So it's good to have a little bit of a background in both, because obviously not everyone is going to be working like where they want, right? So if you ever like find yourself working in a smaller company where these roles are combined, it's good to just have like knowledge of both. Yeah. So the aim, what I want for before we move on to the next slide, I just wanted to say that throughout this workshop, we're going to be learning some UI principles and trying to apply them into our website, but we're not going to be able to cover all of them. So I'm going to send you guys the resources towards the end, so you can do your own research and probably like look at them in your spare time. Yeah. So whenever we're designing like anything at all, we want to make sure that we can design like, So when we're designing something, there's like several steps to it to make sure that you can get the best UI that we can get. So because this is a 2-hour workshop, we can't go through all of them. But if you do find it helpful, we might consider going through each of the steps in the future in like a different workshop. So the initial stage is your research stage. This is when you try and get like as much information as you can about your users, your competitors, and basically just your target audience in general. Like I'll touch a little bit more about why competitors later on, but for now we're going to move on to our second stage, which is the analysis stage. So for those of you who have been doing 1050 or usability, you're probably familiar with some of these. Analysis is just where you try and make sense of all the data you have, and you're trying to understand like what the end-to-end experience really looks like for your users. You also want to figure out what they want, what they need, what their fears are and stuff like that. And if you're wondering what this word persona means, all this is kind of like getting all the data you had from your research and trying to like make a fake person that reflects all of the data that you've had. And then user stories is just kind of like what your users want. It's just that's just a fancy word for what they want. Yeah. And then sketches, obviously, once you've got all the data already and kind of like when you have an idea of what you want, this is when you start drawing out like rough drafts of what your UI should look like. And then after that, you also want to make wireframes also and mockups. So these two words are kind of like people seem to get them confused. So the difference between wireframes and mockups is that mockups are kind of more like snapshots of your UI. So it's just like a static. So this is your UI and it's just a static picture of what it looks like. So for example, a lot of the pictures that you see on Pinterest or Dribble that are just like by itself, those are probably mockups. But wireframes is more like the actual flow of your user interface. So for example, like what happens when you click a button? Does it take you to this page or does it take you to another page? And then what happens when you like enter a certain like item into a field? Like, does it accept your text or does it like reject it? So that's kind of like what you're trying to show in a wireframe compared to a mockup, which is kind of like a quick overview of what your UI looks like. And then next up, we have prototyping. And what that is, it can either be high fidelity or low fidelity. So low fidelity, I can't say this word. So low fidelity is just like a quick, so basically prototypes is kind of combining your mockups and your wireframes. So this is where your app's starting to like come into form and it actually looks like a real app or website. So it's a mockup, but also if you like kind of try and press buttons or do something to it, it'll take you to a different page, or maybe there'll be an action or something that happens. And so it's kind of like integrating your wireframe into your mockup. So yeah, a lot of the things that you'll see online So what a lot of people do is you can either code your prototype, but there's also lots of apps and tools that kind of create a prototype where you don't need any coding. Like for example, Adobe XD and Figma. We're not going to use that today because we're only making a mock-up, but yeah. And then finally, once you have your prototype and it's working, you kind of send that to your users who then give you feedback on your UI that you just made. So this is really important. Most people try to test as much as they can, you know, like even with just, if you just added one new feature, it's important to get some testing on it so that you don't give them like your final really good prototype and then it turns out everything there is pretty bad. So it's good to just get regular feedback. Okay, so do we have any questions so far, April, before we move on?
Someone asked, if there's a client involved, should the personas be made by the client themselves?
No, so I guess most of the time I would say it depends. Sometimes clients already have a pretty good idea of what their personas and what their user base looks like. But if they don't, then they'll probably make that known to you. They'll tell you whether they need your help with researching or not. So yeah, either way, if they don't have it, you'll have to do your research yourself. And if they do have it, then yeah, that's good. But you still might want to conduct that little bit of an extra research just in case they missed any other points.
Yeah, if that didn't make sense, just message again in the chat. There's no more questions, but this is just a quick segue again. For anyone who joined, can you please fill in the form that I've just sent? And also if you want to receive the resources, which includes like the design assets and also the slides afterwards via email, there'll be an option for that if you fill in the form. So just for attendance. No more questions.
Okay, so I think for our first activity, we're just going to start by looking into the actual website. So if you guys have your laptops open, can you please just type this link into your browser, and then I'll let you guys know what we're going to do next. So I'll give you guys 1 minute just to like type that in. Also, while you guys are doing that, I just wanted to say that like the steps that we covered in like the stages of the design process, they're not exactly like, you know, they're not like your 100%, you have to follow it exactly the way it is. Obviously, it's very flexible. You can swap the stages around. Like for example, you might do your mockups first and then you do your wireframes, and you might actually do a testing earlier on. Like really, it's all about what you need. So because we're doing a website redesign, we're going to start with the analysis, and that's why we're going to do this activity first. Okay, so during the analysis stage, all we want to know is like, what is the current state of the website? What's wrong with it? What do they do well? Is there anything else that we could change to it? You know, really that's all we're trying to figure out. And so if you're doing your 1050 assignment, it might be good to just like write a brief paragraph on your thoughts on the website. So yeah, I'm assuming everyone has this website up. So I'm going to go on to our next slide. I'd like you guys to just kind of like spend 5 minutes, right, getting down your general thoughts on like the website that we're redesigning. So if you don't have the Google Doc open, it's the one that we linked earlier. So it's that Cutley link / collab.
I'll link it again.
Yeah, yes, please. So I can open it up actually. Let me get it. It's this one here. There. So April's gonna link that now to the chat. Where are we? Yeah, cool. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys like 5 minutes to just write down your general thoughts. I'd like you guys to really pay attention to what you like about the website, what you don't like about it. So don't worry too much about like why you like or don't like it. We're gonna try and explain that later on. And then also think about if you were ordering a pizza, or like if you're just ordering food in general, like are you able to do it like successfully? And also think about if you just wanted to like maybe if you were maybe to like eat at this restaurant in real life at some point in time, did you get all the information that you wanted? And also, were there any hurdles that you faced while trying to do like any of these steps? And also finally, what is the restaurant's like selling points? Like what are they really trying to like highlight? Like, what is their selling point about their website? So for example, if you're like a vegan restaurant, you probably want to tell everyone that, oh yeah, we serve vegan food and we're all about healthy eating and stuff like that. So what is like the main point that this restaurant is trying to convey? So yeah, gonna start a timer 5 minutes, and please write your thoughts on the Google Doc. And I'm gonna beat them out as well. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, so the Google Doc link is in the chat. And also the website is antoniospizzeriacaulfield.com.au on the screen.
Yeah, it's right here.
We have 30 people in the Google Doc.
There are a lot of, I haven't seen it yet. I'm loading it right now.
Yeah. Also, if you have any questions, type it into the chat, or you can, like, there's the raise your hand feature, I think, which Angus mentioned.
Yeah, my computer's dying.
Okay, there's a lot of different things people are typing.
Yeah, there's so many good points.
This one says the website promotes its app quite well.
Oh, okay. Actually, disagree with that one, but yeah, we can talk about it. Actually, like I made like annotations for this, which I'll show later, but that's okay. We'll talk about it.
Are you gonna send the annotations at the end in the resources, or is that not part of it?
It's already in the thing that everyone downloaded.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right, sorry. So anyone who just entered, the drill is there's the form link that I link like every I don't know, like 20 minutes or something in the chat. And that's for attendance. And also you get to opt into an email afterwards where resources will be sent to you. And also download the redesign file. So it has all the design assets you're going to be using during this.
Also, it's like 0.5 gigabyte. So probably a good idea to download it now.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna frequently link stuff here and you guys can just ignore me if you've already done it. It's just like people are popping in at random times. Yeah.
I really like what everyone's writing down.
Yeah, thanks guys. Looks good.
Thank you everyone for contributing.
How much more time are you giving this?
I don't know, I have 1 minute and a half.
Okay, 1.5 minutes. And then we'll see what you guys all came up with. That's a lot of stuff. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah. Also try clicking stuff, by the way, because I think the order page is not in the home page. So you might have to do a little bit extra clicking to try and order your pizza.
Okay. A few more sentences and then I think you're ready to go.
Oh my god. I'm just gonna mute myself for a second while I drink my milk tea.
Okay. Just Zoom things. Okay, I'm gonna give this 10 more seconds. Is that okay, Jasmine? Okay.
Yeah, that's good. I'll
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just keep typing or whatever, and Jasmine's just gonna go through it.
Okay, let's see what everyone says about this website. I feel bad for this guy. We're not meant to roast his website, but I feel like this is what's happening right now. Okay, so somebody likes the order now button. So people who just want to order pizza, they can see it clearly, which is true. Let me actually pull up the website right now. Oh man, I don't have the website. Okay, yeah. Right, yeah, that's a really big order now button. If that if you still don't know how to order after seeing that, then probably need glasses. So yeah, the colors are hard on the eyes. That's true. Definitely. If you guys know a little bit about color theory, you'll know that red is just really bright and aggressive, and it's not something good. It's not something that's good for your eyes to look at for an extended period of time. The order now button. Yeah, actually, let's click on this button and let's have a look. And then we'll look at that later. What else? The background kind of overshadows the text. That's true. So I think the point of the background was that they really want to showcase like what their pizza. They want to showcase and show people that their pizza looks really good, but it's kind of like that's kind of like coming at the expense of being able to read the text in front of it. And so there is ways to kind of like put text over your image in like a better way than this. We'll try and cover that later. Also, next one is there's hard to read text, which is, and they're not using a sans serif font. Okay, that's interesting. So for those of you guys who don't know what a sans serif font is, it's basically, so have a look at this one here. Like you might notice that there's all of these tails at the end of letters. And what that is that's a serif. And so that's what makes like a font, like that's serif. And then once you kind of like remove these, a good example would probably be a lot of the phones. Just pick up your phone right now and look at the text. So because the text on your phone doesn't have any of these like tails and stuff like that, that's a sans serif font. Sans just means without. So like a lot of people think that you should not use serif fonts on screen. And there's something to do with pixel quality, which we'll talk about later. But I think in general, the important thing is that if you're going to use a serif font, it should be big so that it's more legible, kind of like this. But when it comes to the text here, it's a little bit, it's like all the details are getting lost and it's just getting hard. It's just a little bit harder to read for like your average person. Yeah, so these are really good. I'll probably go through my annotations now because it's probably a lot easier. Sorry, wait, actually. Okay, yeah. So I think some of the comments that I wrote down was, we'll start with this top area here. So with the Google Play and the download on the App Store, I think the main issue here is that like the image quality is not consistent. So there's it's kind of like confusing to your users. Also, it doesn't really mention like what are people downloading, like are they downloading an app? Are they downloading like just like something else? Like it's not very clear, and it's kind of just like put up there at the very top, and it kind of ruins the entire structure of the website. So because, you know, where people, a lot of like our brains really like looking at like organized, like having like our brains really like organized structure and grids and stuff like that. And when you kind of have like these random app icons at the very top, it loses that structure, and then you kind of like you just don't know where to focus, right? And so yeah. Then I think the other points that I had as well was some of these texts is a little bit hard to read because of the typography, like someone mentioned with like the serifs and stuff. We'll probably explain that a little bit later on. And also the white on red background is a little bit hard on the eyes. So like even though it's good and bright now to catch your attention, it's going to be harder for someone to look later on. Yeah. Also, I just wanted you guys to like take note like what happens when you scroll down. And what you'll notice is that the navigation bar is like the exact same color as your body text. And like the issue with that is that what happens is your navigation bar it just blends into the background, and it's like doesn't stand out as much. And that's kind of an issue because one of the UX principles that we're going to talk about later on is that users like to stay in control. Like in the way that users feel like they're in control when visiting a website is like having the navigation bar there. You know, like when you see a navigation bar, you kind of think to yourself, oh yeah, okay, if I don't like this section of the website, I can just go somewhere else. You know, I can just, oh yeah, I accidentally did that. Again, pretty bad. But yeah, basically it just lets your users feel in control. And if it blends in, if the one thing that makes them feel comfortable with your website is kind of like blending into the background and it's not standing out, it kind of like it's like a lot of psychology. I don't know if this sounds a little bit too much common sense, but that's what UX is. It's understanding why we think certain things. Because even though you think, oh yeah, I know this already, really, it's like your mind is making a subconscious decision way before you even know like what it is. So in terms of the navigation bar, it's just there, and it's kind of like you just feel less in control when it's like blending into the background. But yeah, also the social media page, yeah, okay, I don't see anymore. It was on my iPad, but yeah, sure. Also, there's kind of like irrelevant information here. So like this established 1996, we're not really sure why it's there. The main issue with that is because there's another principle that we're going to talk about later, but basically all it means is that you can't have too much mental load. Like the average person can only have about like 7 things at the same time in their head. And when you're kind of like overloading them and all of these information, like you have so much bright colors, you have random text everywhere, and then you have these apps, and then you're adding like irrelevant information. It's a little bit too much for a person. And then all of these information gets lost, and it's just harder for them to navigate. Yeah, and again, there's like it's really disorganized. There's no structure here. And then moving on to the menu page, as you can see, they have a lot of different sections for their menus. They have deals, entree, mains, and they have quite a large menu as well. So what happens when you kind of like wanna, like there's no easy way for a user to navigate between each of these different sections, you know, like you can't just jump from mains into dessert easily. And so that can get like quite annoying. So like you have to like scroll like really hard. This is really tough, especially when you're in mobile, because when it's like harder for you to reach stuff at the top and at the bottom, like, you know, think about how you hold your phones and like you're swiping up and down, it's harder to reach the stuff at the top. And so you're like swiping like a lot, and it's really not good. You need to always give your users an easy way to get to where they want to go to. Like really, that's the key point. Yeah, and again, like these fonts are quite small. And also if you have a look at this, I actually was confused earlier. If you have a look at their like pricing and sizing, they're kind of just like, they're all the same size, right? And so if something is the same size, like what our brain does, if they look the same, we assume they're the same thing. And because these are all the same, like it's not easy for us to kind of like distinguish what is like, what's the size and what's the price, right? So they just all kind of like look the same. And also on top of that, if you look at this, 950 and large, like it looks like large costs 950. Like I don't know if you guys thought that, but when the first time I looked at this, I thought large was 950 and then 14 was the family size, and then there's like this extra number there and this extra text there. So it's really all these things that there's so many things that we can do to make this like a lot easier. Because the point of this is basically like I wanted to like bring your attention to when you're browsing a website. So when you're trying to scan this like really large menu, you don't usually read it like one by one. Like what you do is you kind of like try and find like some keywords, but like because everything blends in together, it makes it harder for you to like find what you want really quickly. And really that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that each of these like stand out and it's easy to see so that people can scan quickly and get what they want as fast as they can. Yeah, there's quite a lot of options. It's pretty overwhelming. I think we're going to scroll down as well. I don't know if anyone mentioned this about section, but I can't even read this, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think this is actually pretty okay. And yeah, again, this is quite a large footer just for something that's like pretty much the same information. For example, your Monday, like the Monday here is the same for pickup and delivery. Okay, pickup and delivery are exactly the same times, I just realized. So you didn't really need to have this twice. All this is doing is increasing like the user's mental load. And because of that, it's harder for you to concentrate on what you really want to do. So yeah, overall, I think we all get the idea that a lot of things is wrong with this website and we're going to try and fix it. So yeah, I hope that by looking at that website, you guys kind of like have a better idea of what to look for when you're trying to analyze what to change for your website. So now we're gonna do a little bit of research. So in the context of like us redesigning this website, what we want to do is really like, because, okay, so if we're so I'll just start that all over again. So what we're doing when we're redesigning a website is we don't want to redesign it completely into something like completely different. You know, we don't want, you want it to still have like the same idea, the same tone and stuff like that. So for us to actually like capture what this website is trying to convey, we need to do a little bit of research onto what the website tone, personality, and brand is. We also want to try and like figure out what is it that they're trying to sell. So we can kind of see that, yeah, they're selling pizzas, but what else are they trying to sell on their website? So you might notice that if you go into Domino's, to like the Domino's website, you can see that a lot of their ads is just like showing their promotions and their deals. And then if you go into to some websites of 5-star restaurants, a lot of them like to showcase their famous lineups of chefs because that's their selling point. So what we want to know is like, what is this particular website selling point, so that we can make sure to incorporate that into our website redesign. Because we don't want to make a completely new website. We still want it to have like the same essence of the original one. And then we also want to have a look at what like the users of the site are. So when you're going into this website, you know, pretend you're a customer, pretend you're a user. Why are you visiting this particular website? You know, what are you trying to achieve? So we kind of looked a little bit into that earlier. You know, for example, oh, if I want to eat at this restaurant, like what kind of things would you be what kind of information would you want to find on that website? And finally, we want to look at competitor sites as well. The reason for this is because, actually, I'll save that for later. We'll just do this second activity for now. Yeah, so again, we're going to have 5 minutes to kind of think about these questions and put your thoughts into the Google Doc. And then we'll probably sum it up. And then once we have all of this information, we're ready to start like our redesign. Is that cool with everyone? Yep. Okay, I'm going to start 5 minutes now. I've kind of started on activity 2 with like the bullet points there. So you should be able to just like write what your thoughts are on what the tone is, selling points, wants, and competitive sites. Yeah. Also for competitive sites, by the way, feel free to just add the link. Like you don't have to like state specifically what the competitive sites are doing. Like just literally link to like, I don't know, Uber Eats, Domino's, whatever other sites you can find. All right, 5 minutes starts now.
Cool. Do we play some music or?
Music.
If someone wants music, type it into the chat and we'll get music prepared for our future sessions too. Okay, this one has less people typing.
Is the question too hard? I can guide you guys. So
okay. David wants music. Sorry, yes.
Sure. So basically for the competitive sites, think about like other websites that are offering the same like value proposition as this website. So obviously one thing we can see easily is that they're a pizza restaurant. So one of the competitive sites would be any other pizza place that you can think of. On top of that, they're also competing because they offer an online delivery service. They might also be competing with other sites like Uber Eats and Menulog and stuff like that. So as long as they have the same features, because this website has like an online ordering feature, any other website that has the same feature, we can use as a competitor so that we can compare our website, how our website is doing compared to them. And also you don't even have to stick to pizza as well, because it's a food because it is a food restaurant. You can like even go look into like other types of foods. Like maybe you just want to look at general Italian cuisine, or maybe you want to look at other restaurants that have like kind of a specialty and then see how they sell their specialized food. For example, HSP, if like if a restaurant makes like best HSP in town, you know, because our website claims to have like the best pizza in town, that might be a good comparison to how the other specialty restaurant is doing.
Okay, someone requested lo-fi music. I don't really know how this is gonna work. Do I just like take my headphones off and play it on the speaker? Let me get some
Can you
lo-fi.
share on like Zoom?
Does anyone know if you can actually like play music on Zoom or like somehow have everyone listen to the same thing? I can just play it out loud. How much time left is there, Jasmine?
2 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, did someone say we need to use Flux? Actually, Flux is so good. I didn't think of that.
You can use Flux.
Too late now. Okay, in terms of like the personality, brand, and tone, like maybe have a look at what their colors are, you know, why they chose the specific colors that they have on their website. So based on the use of the fonts that they chose, like you might notice they use serif fonts. Like, what are they trying to achieve by using those kind of fonts? Like, are they trying to be fun and playful, trying to be formal? I don't know. Like, feel free to brainstorm these.
Jasmine, Emily
Yeah.
in the chat has just told us that the person screen sharing can share their computer audio.
Oh.
So every time you go to these breaks for people to brainstorm or do activities, you can just play lo-fi music.
So do I go, do they have lo-fi on Spotify? Or do I have to go on YouTube?
There's lo-fi on Spotify, but you can go anywhere. Just letting you know. You can do it whenever.
I'll do it now. Cause like,
okay.
yeah.
So looking at activity 2, competitor sites is pretty full.
So in terms of what users want, like think back to like the first time you went to like a really fancy restaurant, you know. I know that when I'm looking at new restaurants, I always like try and call them up because like I don't know if I need to make a reservation or if I can just walk in. You know, these are the kind of things that you just really need to look back to your own experience and like try to put yourself in the shoes of your users. How does this work? How does this work? Can I just play this?
Yeah, just try playing something and see if it works.
Can you hear that?
Definitely can't.
Oh,
so Sienna said in share screen option, click advance and then click share computer sound. This is a team effort. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Wait, share screen. I only see my desktop.
Share screen option.
Oh yeah, no, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time left for this? I feel like time's over.
Yeah, time's up, but we need lo-fi hip hop.
That's for when you're brainstorming.
I'll do it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'll do it later. Okay, so let's see what everyone's got. All right, that's some pretty good things. Yeah, so tone, there's a lot of red, contrasting colors. Italian, that's a pretty good point. So these are really good. Let me just open up my slide on what I got. So for tone and personality and brand, these are just my opinions. Obviously, like there's some things that I haven't thought of, and this is why it's good to have like a really big collaborative team with diversity, so you can get not just like diversity in people, but also diversity in the way of thinking, because obviously one person can't think of everything. And so it's good to get that extra feedback from other people. So basically what I can see from the use of serif fonts is they want to be formal and elegant. So they want to kind of like show to people that, oh yeah, we're really high class, we serve really good pizza, and we have like an elegance to our restaurant. At least that's what I thought they were trying to convey, but they didn't do it really well. But yeah, anyway. Also, because of their use of red, green, and white colors, these are the colors of the Italian flag. And from that, what I can tell is that they want to stick to their, they want to show their nationalistic side. I don't know if that's the word. Basically, they just want to show that, oh yeah, they're true Italian. This is like our food is authentic, and this is who we are. Another point is that they want to be open and friendly. So they specifically say, I don't know if you guys saw in the about page, they specifically said that they want to serve good food that you can share with your family. So what that's telling me is that they want to have like a inclusive environment, like open to everyone and as many people as you can. Because generally, if you have, if you guys are familiar with Italian culture, or if you have like Italian background, they're very close with their family. I had an Italian neighbor, and basically their entire extended family, there's always like 30 people. They're always gathering and having lunch together. And so when I think of this, I'm kind of like assuming that when they say family, they're assuming like they're open to serving their food to as many people as they can. So yeah, that's for tone, personality, and brand. So when we're redesigning our website, we want to make sure that we stick to this kind of like tone and personality, because we don't want to recreate the website, because you know it's not our business, it's their business. And so if you're redesigning something to them, you have to listen to your client and give them what they want. You can't just redesign everything like by yourself. Also, in terms of selling points, they want to make sure that people know they have authentic Italian food, because you know there's lots of like Italian places out there that are run by like people who are not Italian, or maybe people who don't have a lot of background in making Italian food. So they want to distinguish themselves by letting people know that yeah, everything they make is 100% made by Italian food, straight out of straight out of Italy or whatever else that they're using. The next point is they're also one of the top Italian cuisine places in town. I think I got this from from reading the description of the website. So you really have to read the website, like every little thing. So if you're redesigning yours, just make sure you take note of everything that you can see, because that's good information. So they're claiming that they're one of the top Italian cuisine places in town. So we definitely want to include that into our redesign. And they specialize in pizzas. You know, this sounds very obvious, but basically there's a lot of Italian places that kind of like specialize in gnocchi or like other Italian foods, like maybe pasta, but their selling point is their specialty is pizzas. And so we want to highlight as many of the best pizzas that we can find. Also, because of that giant banner, so from that, just by looking at the giant pizza banner on the homepage, which you guys probably remember, I'm just assuming that they want people to see how good their food is. And it needs to be, because it's displayed prominently on their website, we want to make sure that in our redesign, we showcase the same feeling to people. We want to show people how good their pizzas are. And we want to just keep showing images of that so that they get convinced. Okay. They allow for online ordering. So not a lot of, so I think it's more common nowadays, but it used to be that not a lot of places had online ordering. And so I think you can clearly see from the homepage that they really wanted people to know this. And so we just want to incorporate that as well. And finally, their social media and also their apps, because it was put there right at the very top. I think what they thought was that by putting it right at the very top, people will see it first, which is true, but also it was just not put in a way, but it's just made the entire website a little bit more disorganized. But anyway, we're gonna make sure that we promote their app and the social media, so that in like our redesign. And also user needs. So there's a lot of really good needs that people wrote down, but I think we can boil down our users into two different types of people. Like one of the people who's going to go to this website, they probably want to actually visit the place in person. And then the other type of person who's visiting the website probably wants to order online, or maybe do a pickup. Yep. So if you're the type of person who wants to visit the place, like eventually, like in person, you probably want to check, oh, do I need a booking? Can I just walk in? Do I need to call first and like I don't know, ask if I need to make a reservation? And then does the food look good? Because you know, if you're going to be traveling to that place, you want to make sure that you're traveling for something that's good. And then maybe do they have food? Maybe you have a dietary requirement. You know, maybe you're vegetarian or vegan. Like, does this restaurant serve the foods that you need? And like, you're also probably wondering, is the place open and friendly? Because obviously we try to avoid places that look dodgy. So obviously if the place doesn't look very welcoming, you do not probably want to go to that website. And so it's important for us to display that vibe and to like show them that this restaurant definitely is friendly and it's highly recommended by other people. Now, if you're the type of person who's ordering online, what you probably want is, you either probably want to take your time and looking through the entire menu, but probably more likely, more often than not, you probably want to be able to order really quickly, because if you're ordering online, it's either we're in quarantine or you can't be bothered going there because it takes ages, and so you want to do something really quickly. You also, so when you're ordering online, you don't have like the advantage of being able to look around your restaurant and see what other people are ordering. And because of that, you're kind of like going into this restaurant blind and you don't know what you're ordering. And so it's really important that when you're ordering online to be able to see what you're eating. So I actually struggled with this yesterday. I spent like 30 minutes like trying to order pizza, but like I don't understand what any of the pizza names mean, because they always throw random names for pizzas, and I'm just like, I don't know what that is, and I don't even know what it looks like. So I just actually just gave up and I didn't order my pizza because I got tired of trying to look up what these names mean. So yeah, it's really important to have like pictures of your food so people know what they're ordering. Also, people also want to know like what the cost of your order is. And then also you want to know how much food do you actually need to order, because again, if you're not there in person, you can't really gauge what the size is. You probably also want to know if they deliver, if they do pickup, and probably the most important thing, how long does it take for your food to get ready? So these are kind of like the information you might be looking for if you're trying to order online. So yeah, there's probably some that I missed, and like definitely that's why it's always good to have like a friend look over your work and like get feedback, because you can't get everything yourself. Like I'll probably miss some stuff, and like that's okay. So you just get other people to look at your work and tell them if you missed anything. And then finally, competitor sites. So the reason we're looking at competitor sites is, so there's a UX law. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this now. So there's a UX law which kind of talks about familiarity. So basically, like what we do in general is like we spend a lot of time looking at other websites. So you guys probably spend a lot of time going through Uber Eats. You've probably spent a lot of time browsing random websites on the internet. And because you have all that past experience, you kind of like built up all of these expectations of what a certain website is supposed to look like. And so because you have these expectations, when you go to the Antonio's Pizzeria website, you're kind of expected to act and behave in like a very similar way. And then when it doesn't behave in a similar way, you're kind of like taken aback and you're a little bit surprised, because then, oh wait, why didn't it do this? And there's actually been research done on expectations and behaviors, which you guys feel free to look up some stuff. But basically there was this app on Android where the close button was put in like a specific spot where it's not meant to be, and so people kept clicking the wrong button, and it made them like delete the app, and like they were a lot more frustrated. But then the app has since changed that to be more like in line with Android design standards, and they've kind of like I think they've like got an increase in downloads by like a couple percent. I'm not going to make up the stats because I don't know, but the point is, when users come to your website, they have a certain expectation of what they want it to look like. A perfect example of that is the hamburger icon. If you go into your like literally any website on mobile, there's like those 3 lines like this. I don't know if that looks like that, but there's those 3 lines, and you instantly know that it's a menu button. So yeah, and that's why every website has those nowadays. And the reason for that is because you kind of like expect websites to have that, and so everyone has to just do it. It doesn't matter. And that's why we're looking at these competitor websites, because we want to see like how they're like offering their service. So for example, because we have an online ordering service, we want to look at Uber Eats, Deliveroo, menu log. We want to see how they lay out their stuff. And so maybe we can like take inspiration from that, put it into our website, but maybe personalize it a little bit to be more in line with the design, with our own website design. And then looking at these other pizza places, we kind of just like want to look into it as well, just in case, I don't know, you want to see how they present their pizzas. And so if they're doing something and if there's like a pattern or like something in common that they have, we might want to take that in as well, just so that, you know, we can incorporate it into our website. But also it's important to stand out. You know, you don't want to look like the same as everyone else. It can be a little bit tricky because it's like a fine line between balancing that familiarity option with other websites and also trying to stand out from the crowd, which can be tricky, and it leads to a lot of websites looking the same. But great designers, you know, we'll always find a way to like like balance it. Okay, so now that the research part is over, I just wanted to like give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek of how I went about and redesigned the website. Obviously, I'm not saying it's perfect. Like I actually looked at it this morning and I was like, oh yeah, I would not have done that. Why did I do that? But this is how I started. I designed it in the beginning.
Yeah, Jasmine, can I just cut in for a second?
Yeah.
This is just another reminder. If anyone has any questions, just type it into the chat and then I will tell Jasmine the questions afterwards when I collate it.
Oh man, I'm so dumb. I had the annotations open here. Oh boy. Okay, anyway, by the way, guys, these annotated comments I had on the website, they're available in the zip file that you downloaded in the folder called annotations. So if you ever want to look at them again and try and when you're doing your own analysis, feel free to do that. I'm gonna close them because I can't believe I forgot about this. Yeah, okay. Where is the website? Did I close it? Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
If anyone can't see it, just type into the chat.
So this is kind of like a sneak peek about the website. Obviously, there might be some issues like the font's looking a little bit too big. Like there's a good explanation for that, which you'll find out later. But for now, like clearly here you can see that I've blurred the background. I've darkened the background a little bit just so the text is a little bit more legible. And then I've kind of split them up into like easier to read sections like that. And yeah, hopefully we're gonna try and redesign this from scratch. Like our redesign isn't going to be the exact same. We might make changes along the way because I want you guys to also like give me your own opinions. And yeah. So now we're going to move on into our Illustrator setup. So I just want to confirm, like, does anyone not have Illustrator downloaded on their computer?
Just type
5
into the
seconds
chat.
to reply.
Also, Jasmine, you have a question?
Yeah, sure.
So Ursob asked, where do you find photo sources?
Oh, okay. I was actually going to go through that. So my favorite one is called unsplash.com.
So I'll type these into the Google Doc. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
cool.
actually, yeah, sure. So there's one called unsplash.com. There's also another called Pexels, like literally pixels, but with an E. Wait, let me look through my resources. I'll send this to you guys like after later tonight. Let me have a look. What else? Oh, there's also picsum.photos, like pic as in picture and then sum, like the sum of two numbers, picsum.photos. And then Unsplash, like Unsplash is really good, you know, all you gotta do is like type whatever you're looking for. Like this is where I found all the pizza pictures. Literally I typed in pizza, look at that. And then this is what I use for my cover photo. So yeah, feel free to like use these in your redesigns. I think all you have to do is make sure you credit in your, I think resources if you're gonna do this.
Sorry, what was is it Pexels, like P-E-X?
Pexels, so like, yeah, it's like pixel but with an E.
Okay, cool. I'm just linking it in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So Illustrator. If you guys, I'm gonna assume everyone has Illustrator, so I'm gonna stop sharing the screen now. And I'm actually gonna just share Illustrator. Give me 1 second. But if you guys, so can you guys please just open up Illustrator and then like don't touch anything for now, because then I can explain to you what each of the settings mean. Just get it up and running.
So if anyone doesn't have Illustrator, please message in the chat. It takes a while to download, but you can probably sort something out afterwards. And if you have any questions, you can message us after too.
I don't think you can download it like by now.
You can't, but they can watch it and then afterwards they can message you if they go through it again.
Okay, so I'm going to open up Illustrator. Am I still sharing or not?
Yes, we see your
nice.
We see your Google Slides.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, just leave it there.
Yeah, cool.
I'm going to share my just open up Illustrator for now, and I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to walk through like the entire design. Also, just as a fun fact, I actually redesigned this whole website in about like 4 hours, including the research and all that annotation and stuff. So I think if I didn't have to annotate anything and I just had to do it just straight up, it would have taken me about 1 hour. But because you have to do all that extra stuff, it just makes the process even longer. But yeah, don't cram for your assignment. Just because I can do it in 1 hour doesn't mean you should.
Is this the time for lo-fi music, or are
Yeah.
you just like waiting? Wait, what are you doing?
No, I'm just putting up. I'm opening up Illustrator and waiting for everyone to have it open. So
Okay.
can everyone like see like the homepage of Illustrator at least? Can you see my screen, by the way? Is this what's showing?
I can see your screen. If anyone can't see screen, please. Oh yeah, everyone's saying yep in the chat.
Is it
I think
Illustrator?
you're good.
Is it Illustrator though? Like what?
Yeah, it's Illustrator. We see your homepage where you can create new files and stuff.
Okay, awesome. So, let me just get something. Hold on, give me like 2 seconds, guys. I'll play lo-fi, but like, no, I'm gonna close lo-fi because my computer's kind of like lagging out. Also, if you guys have a second screen, like at all, like if you have an iPad, even if it's like the iPad mini, or if you have like if your siblings have like a second laptop, definitely get that now and play the Zoom video there, because it's a lot easier for you to like watch me on one screen and just keep working on the other. All right, so can everyone see my, okay, you can still see my Illustrator, yep. Okay, so when you start off, I'm gonna give you guys an overview of Illustrator first. So what you're seeing right now on the page, this is like your home page basically. So before you start working on a project, you're taken into this page. On the left here, on the left here, you'll see two things. One is home and one is learn. If you actually click on learn, there's lots of tutorials there on how to use Illustrator. But honestly, I've never used them. I just go onto YouTube and it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to learn stuff that way. And then if you go into home, you'll see like there's some templates here. So when you're drawing on Illustrator, you don't have to just draw for a website. Like you can change your screen. You can probably draw for you can draw for the size of an iPhone. You can draw for like an A4 page. You can draw like literally whatever you want. And so there's like some standards here, which are commonly used, but you can definitely create your own as well. And then in recent, this is going to show you like all the recent projects you've worked with if you do have them. But if you've never worked with Illustrator, it's probably going to be empty. So for now, I'm going to look into the left side. So just have your Illustrator open. Like don't look at my screen now. I'll be sharing it just in case, but I'll just be talking through everything that's happening, and just keep an eye on your own Illustrator. Okay. Yeah, so on the left side of the screen, you'll see there's like two buttons, create new and open. Now, if you have an order file that you've already been working on, obviously you're going to click open. But for now, for this workshop, we're going to click on create new. And so if you click create new, you're probably going to see this screen that's a pop-up. On the very top there, just under where it says new document, you'll see recent, saved, mobile, web, print. So what this is just kind of like the presets of what you'll be working on. So obviously it has like your dimensions of how big you want your art to be. And it's also kind of like on the right, if you look on the right, you can see you can adjust like whether your sizing is in pixels or millimeters or centimeters. So if you click on the so if you're looking on the right bar, just under where it says untitled, you'll see width, and then to the right of width, if you click on that, there's like an option to change it to like the pixels, millimeters, centimeters. For now, we're going to be working with pixels, so just leave it at pixels. And for the width and the height, what I want the width and the height to be, I'm actually going to set it to, actually, what I did for the width and the height is, what people normally do is try to like, because we want to redesign for our users, right? We want to know what the screen size of our users are. So I'm just going to show you guys, if you go into Google and you look at screen size market share, there's a website that shows you how many, I'm going to link it to the chat now, but there's a website that shows you how many people like, and like what is the most common screen size basically. Wait, everyone. So can everyone just look on the chat and then click on that link? Actually, I'm going to send you guys a new link with filters added. So in this new link, it shows you what are the most common like desktop screen resolutions in Australia and for desktop. Oh yeah, I said that twice. But yeah, so click on that link. And if you go on that website, it'll show you that the most common screen resolution is 1920 by 1080. And then if you look at the second most common, that's 1366 by 768. Because they're so close, you know, one of them is like 21% of Australians use 1920 by 1080 pixels, and 15% of Australians use 1366 by 768. Because it's so close, what the size that we're gonna go with is the smaller one. Because, and the reason for that is this smaller one can easily resize to go up to the size of the higher one. But that higher one, but if you design for a higher resolution, it's gonna be a little bit harder to make it more compact. And just as like an added fact, a lot of companies nowadays design for mobile first because it's a lot easier to expand your website going from mobile into the size of a desktop rather than like starting out big and then compressing it into something smaller. So yeah, you can close our website now. And if you go back into Illustrator, we're going to set our width into 1366 pixels. And we're going to set our height up to 768 pixels. Good. Wait, April, are you doing this workshop as well? Okay, you're muted.
Yep, sorry. Yeah. I have it open. Okay. I'm just typing stuff.
Okay.
What's up?
Okay. No, I'm just asking to make sure everyone's got it. But yeah, okay, so cool. Your width is 1366, your height is 768. Your orientation should be landscape. So you can see there's two options there. If you ever want to make yours portrait, if you click on portrait, you can see that it'll swap your width and height. But because we don't want portrait, I'm just going to click back onto landscape here. And your artboards, oh, that's you. Okay, so for your artboards, so if you guys ever use, no, actually, we'll just make that one. I'll show you guys later what artboards are. And then if you go into, this is just like artboards are, okay, I'll explain now. So artboards are kind of like your canvases. So if you do any kind of painting or like, okay, think of it as you drawing, right? So if you have one sheet of paper, you can only draw on that one sheet, right? So then if you have two sheets of papers, then you can draw on two things at a time. So now these artboards are kind of like your sheets of papers, where the more you have, the more you can like draw on at the same time. So we're only going to need one for this one. So I'm going to press one, but feel free to have two of them if you want. You know what? You can even write two just so you can see what it looks like. Like, I don't really mind, but I'm going to stick to one. And then there's these things called bleed, which we're not going to worry about because bleed is more for printing. But because we're working on something that's going to be shown on digital screens, we're not going to worry about that. And then if you click on advanced options, just under bleed, you'll see that there's color mode, there's raster effects, and there's preview mode. We're not really concerned with the bottom two. We're concerned more with color mode. So if you click on color mode, there's an option to either use RGB color or CMYK color. The difference between these two is that RGB is how color is displayed on your screen. And CMYK is how a lot of printers print out colors on paper. And the biggest difference between these two is that there's a lot more colors in like the RGB palette color scheme. And so a lot of design, so it's really important to like pick the right one when you're designing. So right, so if you design something that's supposed to be printed and you used RGB color, it might come out really dull because CMYK doesn't have as many colors that RGB has. And so if you accidentally use a color that doesn't exist in like the CMYK palette, it's just not going to look the same. And so really important to use RGB for digital. Wait, it also works both ways, right? If you use CMYK for digital, like designs, then you're not using like all the colors that's available to you. So yeah, please use RGB for now because we're working on a website which is going to be shown on screen. But if you're gonna design anything that's gonna be printed, like a flyer, like brochures or whatever, make sure you're working on CMYK. Yeah, so that's like what the right side does. Also, if you haven't already, towards the very top, you'll see it says preset details, and then there's like untitled. And that untitled is like the name of your project. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rename mine Redesign, but feel free to name yours whatever. Like if it's your assignment, name it assignment, I don't know. And before I actually move on to like creating it, I just wanted to show you guys what these other tabs at the top do. So where it says recent, saved, mobile, and web, these are actually just like standard templates. So these just like if you can't be like these are kind of like pre-filled templates, right? So if you was designing for the web, oh, they actually have web already. So if you already know what you're designing for, so for example, if you want to redesign for 1920 by 1080 pixels, you just click on that. Or if you want to design for a different size, it's that. If you wanted to redesign for print, you go into print and there's like a bunch of sizes. There's A4, legal, B5, A3, whatever. So because we're going to redesign for the web, you can even click on this, but it's also the same as what we just wrote earlier. But yeah, once you've got that, just click on create on the bottom right, and your Illustrator should then look something like this. Cool. And then if you actually put in two artboards, what's going to happen is it probably looks something like this. Then you have two things to work on. And if you don't want that, because it might get a little bit confusing, all you have to do is on this right panel here, this very bottom, there, click on delete. And there's a delete button. There you go. But don't worry about it. Okay, so before we get started, can everyone please just go to so at the very top, there's like a bunch of options there. So there's your usual file, edit, and like object or whatever. So look to the very right and look at window. And once you click on window, just look down and find where it says workspace. And once you like go to workspace, just put your mouse over it and then go to Essentials Classic.
Yep, Jasmine, just letting you know, in the recording, like your top part is kind of cut off. So I think you got to emphasize which button you're pressing. Is it window, right?
Yeah, it's window. So I'm pressing window, by the way. Yeah.
So Jasmine's on a Mac.
Yeah, how do you do it? Does anyone have Windows?
If anyone knows how to do it on a Windows, just like please message.
No,
but it should
what does the Windows screen look like?
I assume it's like stuff at the top too. Okay, yeah. Okay. So I've just said he's on they're on Windows and it's the same.
Okay, done. Easy. So then just click on Workspace and then Essentials Classic. And if your Essentials Classic, like your toolbars and stuff, does not look like mine, then you just go back into that workspace and you click on Reset Essentials Classic. If you've so every time you've kind of like done something like, oh, hey, I moved that there, and then like you don't know how to put it back, you just go back to your Windows, workspace, reset your Essentials Classic, and everything should be back to normal. Cool. All right, so the first thing that I want to do for this redesign is obviously, before we get started, normally, this is just me normally like as a designer, you don't have to do it the way I do, but first of all, I like to get my font sorted and I like to get my colors like down. And so the way I actually like do my colors is I like to make a swatch. If you guys do makeup, you probably know what this is here, but like a swatch is just like your color palette, basically. So if you go onto the right hand, if you go to the left side of your screen, you will see a rectangle button there. So it's probably, you can press M on your keyboard, but there's like, it's a rectangle, it's a square, you know, you can just click on that. Should be pretty easy. And then all I'm going to do is on top of your artboard, no, actually go to the left of your artboard, which is that white screen, which is the white thing in the middle of your screen. I'm just going to draw a square like that. And then I'm going to make another square just below it like that. And I'm going to make another one. So that now there's 3 squares. What I'm going to do later on is I'm going to pre-fill this with my colors that I want. And the reason for that is because we have this eyedropper tool. If you guys use MS Paint or anything, all the eyedropper tool is if you want to recolor like another object, you can just copy the color from another object, which is what these squares are going to be. And then it just transfers the color into the other object that you want to recolor. But okay.
Jasmine, can I just mention, if you want to, do you want to talk about how you unclick from that?
Now, how to unclick?
The selection tool.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I should have done that. Okay. So if you guys want to unclick from, like, want to get out of the rectangle tool, you click on your selection tool, which is the very top left here, or you press V on your keyboard. Or you can press escape. Like while you're drawing something, just press escape. Actually escape doesn't work anymore. It used to work, but yeah, just press V on your keyboard and it'll move you to that. Like it's kind of like unclicking you from the rectangle.
Like a cursor, right?
Yeah, okay. It's your normal cursor. All right, so before we probably get started, I should explain to you guys what all of these means, just so it's not confusing. So basically on your Illustrator, to the very left is where a lot of your tools are. So as you can see, we've just used the rectangle tool. There's also other tools there like your type tool, which is your text. This is how you write text on your files. There's like line tools if you ever want to draw lines. Also, by the way, if you see like a small triangle just on the bottom left of an icon, what that means is that you can click on that. And there's other options. So for example, if I click and hold on the rectangle tool, you'll see that there's like the ellipse tool, the polygon tool, rounded rectangle tool, and there's a bunch of other shapes that you can do. So that works for literally every other tool in there that has an option. For example, if I look into this eraser tool, there's a knife tool, and there's a scissor tool. So really, if you can't find what you need, it's probably hidden in one of these there. And also this selection tool is going to be your friend. So anytime you want to just like move across the screen, if you want to move up and down, left and right, you have to use your direct selection tool, because otherwise, if you stay in your shape selections, anytime you click on the screen, it's going to make shapes, and you don't want that. And so you just click on your selection tool. If it's doing something weird, it means you're not in your selection tool. Okay, yeah, so there's your toolbar. On the bottom of your toolbar, you'll see two shapes, like you'll see two shapes, one of them like on top of the other and kind of like at the top left, and the other one's just like slightly covered like this. I don't know if you're looking at my screen or your screen, but if you're not looking at my screen, it's like those two shapes like that. So the one on the very left is actually your fill. So the color of the rectangle that's on the left is what the color of your shape is going to be. And then the rectangle on the right is the stroke. So whatever color this is, that's the color of the stroke of your element. And the stroke is just like the outline. So if you look at this square, if you look at my screen right now, you can see this square has like a black outline. And that's because it says here, it has a white fill, it has a white solid fill, and it has a black outline. Really simple. If you want to remove any of these at any point, you want to like just make it transparent. Make sure you're clicking. So first of all, I'm going to make sure the stroke. So whichever one is like the one on top is what you're looking at. So at the moment, if I click on my shape, because this like black thing is the one at the very top, it means the stroke is what I'm going to be changing. So if I click on this transparent, if I click on this like none at the bottom right, the stroke is what like gets affected. So it's not the fill is still white, and that's because we just changed the stroke. Now, if you want to actually change the color of your fill, what you have to do then is double click or like just single click this fill, just click on that, and then now you can see that it's moved to the top. And what that tells me is that that's what you're changing. Now, if you double click on that fill, you'll see your color picker come up, and then from there you can just pick a bunch of different colors. And if you scroll up on here, you're changing your color. And then if you move to this side, you're changing like the different hues and saturation of your colors. Honestly, pick whatever color you want. Press enter or press OK. And you should see your color, you should see your rectangle change. I don't know if you guys are doing this, but it would be good if you guys did. Because a lot of what we're doing is just making rectangles and shapes. Cool. There's also a gradient option here. We'll look into that later. So that's it for the toolbar. We're gonna look into the right-hand side. There's like your second toolbar. I don't really know what the official names are, but basically half the stuff are here and then the other stuff is on this side. If you go into the right side, there's like kind of like a toolbar looking thing where there's a couple, you're not probably going to use it as much. This is more where you can see your transparency like this. This is how you can set the transparency of your shapes. For example, if I click on this square on my screen on the left, and you can see the opacity is 100%. If I reduce that down to 20, you can see that, oh, my shape is suddenly kind of like transparent. It's 20% transparent. So yeah, I'm just gonna put that back to 100. Just know that that stuff is on the right-hand side. You'll also, this is also where you find your artboards and your stuff. So as you can see there, there's your artboards. If you want to add more artboards, you can just click on this plus button, but I don't need that, so I'm going to delete it. So artboards are like basically your canvases, right? So they're two separate things. So whatever you draw on one artboard is going to be different to like what you draw on this artboard. So if you want to draw like two different versions of things, then you probably need two artboards. Yeah, anyway, we also have these things called layers. Basically, I'm going to demonstrate, like, if you guys can just look at my screen, I'm going to show you what like layers actually do. So right now you can see I have 3 shapes. So I have 3 layers. So the way Illustrator works is by like putting stuff into layers. So I'm going to show you guys the shape really quickly. So I'm going to make this one orange, and this one is going to be, probably going to make this one like red, and I'm going to make another shape, and I'm going to make this one green. So as you can see that like some of them are like on top and some of them at the bottom. And so because of that, and your layers is how you can see. If you click on this like kind of layer looking icon, I don't know how else to describe this, you can see all of the different shapes that you have on your screen. This can get really convoluted later on when we have a lot of elements, but for now, just know that you can reorder your layers. For example, if I want this pink, want this orange thing at the bottom to be on top, because right now you can see that if no matter where I move it, it's always going to be behind the pink and green. If I want to move that to the top, there's 2 ways to do it. So if you go into the layers panel, you can see that it's below the pink one. So if I just drag that up there, you can see that, oh, hey, yeah, it's moved up. And then if I move that up like once more, it's going to move up again. But the easiest way to actually do this is by using your keyboard shortcuts. And the way you do that is you click on this orange element and you do Command, Shift, you do Command or Control for Windows, and you hold the right brackets. Can you type that into the chat, please, April?
Yeah. For the layers?
So can you guys just try this really quickly? Like draw 3 different shapes, and then try and move the bottom one to the top by pressing Command and right. Command and right bracket. No, that's going to the bottom. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm doing both.
Yeah, sure, okay. So you can also hold Shift if you want to bring it to the top or to the bottom. So, okay, so the difference is that if you only hold Command and the bracket, it moves it up 1 layer at a time. It moves it up or down 1 layer at a time. But if you hold Shift, it just moves it to like the very top or to the very bottom. So you can try that out now. Wait, can you also type in the chat without using Shift?
Sorry, how do you do it? Like, without using Shift with the dragging thing, or?
No, I mean no, actually I'll do it. So this is like what I mean, like this, because like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you guys just use the Command and the brackets or Control with the brackets without using Shift, it just moves your items 1 layer at a time. Yeah. Okay. Cool. But if you do it with like Shift, then it just moves it to the very top or to the very bottom, and that's going to be really helpful, especially when you have a lot of layers. But yeah, we're gonna move away from this now because that's basically the main things that we need from Illustrator. So for now, we're gonna try and decide how do we figure out what colors, like how do we figure out what font we want? No, actually, All right, so the first step that I actually did before I even got my font, before I got my colors, is I wanted to figure out what are the different sections that are going to go into my website. And so I'm gonna share a different screen now. I'm gonna go back into my notes. Can you guys see like a Google page?
Yes, Notion?
Yeah, Notion.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was like my notes. This was like my notes for making this website. And what I did really, I'm trying to brainstorm. I'm not going to show you guys the entire process because it might get, because like you can do this in your own time. But all I did was I like to go on Pinterest or Dribble or Behance or literally anything. Like obviously you can also visit websites, but really what I do is I go into Pinterest, I look up landing page design. You know, there's a lot of words that you can even look up website design, look up restaurant design. It doesn't really matter. But what you'll notice is that a lot of websites have like a really big hero image at the top, as you can see here. It's just like a giant image. And this is where you can highlight some of the most important things of your website. Because like obviously when you go into a website, that's the first thing you see. And so you want to make like a really big impact on users so that they would want to stay on your website and browse and look for more. Okay, yeah. So looking at this, I can tell that yeah, I really want a landing. I want like a hero image. And so what I added that thing in the text box here. So my first thing is going to be hero image. And also we're going to need a navigation bar, definitely, because all websites have to have a navigation bar. You know, if you don't have one, your users are going to be very confused. And then I also wanted an about page, because what we're doing is we're trying to showcase that we're very open and we're welcoming, and this is how we can convey like our personality to our users. Like, and even if we have like, if the webs, I don't know about the restaurant that much, but if they do have like some good history that might be like, that can bring like that can invoke some emotion with your users, that might be a good page to put it on. And that's why about pages are pretty important. And also obviously we want a menu, because if people are ordering online, if they just want to browse what your food looks like, you have to have a menu. That's pretty much essential for restaurants. And also another thing is you want to have an option for them to be able to order online. So I don't know yet if we're going to have a section specifically for ordering online or if we're going to have a different page for it. All I know is that I want to be able to let my users to order online. Yep. And finally, we want to have a contact page, because obviously we want to be able to tell our people where you are. You want to be able to tell them how to contact you if they have any questions. Because like I said, with our user needs, if you go back to like what our users need, they want to know if booking is needed. Do they need a call first? Do they make a reservation? And the fastest way they're going to reach you is just by calling you. And so you need to have that contact and socials page, like really important. Socials, not as important, but if you really place good value on promoting all the good foods that you have at your restaurant, then like what a lot of people do nowadays is like people don't actually go to their websites. They probably check out your Instagram first, your Facebook first, and they like kind of like suss out what your food looks like, and that's how they decide. And so it's also important to have your socials there. But if you don't have socials, then that's how you're going to have to like make the best use of your menu. And also just to add to that, because they don't have Instagram, I think I looked this up, they don't have Instagram, their menu is going to be the best way that your users are going to find, like figure out what your food looks like. And so it's really, we're going to have to like just make a note here to add lots of pictures, because this is the only source of like information that your users are going to get. All right, and then also we want to show reviews, and the reason for that is we look back to what our user wants. We want to see, is this place recommended by people? Is the food good? And the best way that you can convey that obviously is just by showing some recommendations from other people. Oh yeah, I wrote down here lots of pictures of pizzas in the restaurant. Really, that's just all about showcasing what you're offering and showing people that you're warm and friendly and welcoming. And this footer, I don't know if we really need a footer, but normally what people put here is your contact details and other things like that. We'll see if we need it, but for now I'm just going to add that there, because like I said, lots of other websites have footers, and so if other websites have that, users are probably going to expect like a certain information in your footer. So we're just going to leave that there, and we'll figure out what to put on there later. All right, so again, so there's going to be, that's kind of like the basis of what we want for our entire website. The next thing that we're going to do now then is we want to figure out what fonts are we actually using. I'm going to show you guys what I use on how like, so it's going to be a little bit of a trouble. It's going to be a little bit hard to kind of like get you guys to figure out the font now. So I'm just going to show you my process on what I had to do. Give me just 1 second to open it up. Okay, so if you guys need inspirations on what to use for your fonts, I have some resources here. You should definitely go here, fontpair.com. So fontpair.com is a really good resource to just like figure out what fonts look good. So generally, as a rule of thumb for like designers, we try to stick to 2 fonts. Sometimes you can have 3, but generally 2 at most is what we stick to. And the reason for that is like mental load really and consistency. You want to have like a very cohesive structure to the website. And if you have like lots of different fonts in one go, again, it's just going to make the users very confused and it's disorganized. You don't know what's happening. And yeah, so just keep it consistent. Just to keep it consistent, stick to 2 fonts. So yeah, like we said, there's like a sans serif and there's a serif font. There we go. This is a sans serif because it doesn't have serifs. Yeah, sure. As you can see, this one has serifs in it. Like serifs and sans serifs are like a pretty popular combination. There's also these display. Display is just kind of like anything that doesn't fit into sans serif and serif. They also have like monospace. Monospace is like where all letters occupy the same space. So you might notice that here with like this sans serif font, like the I just takes up way less space than the P. Now in monospace fonts, which is what you guys probably use in coding, all of the letters take up the same space. So yeah, that's just like, there's many different types of fonts. We're not gonna dive deep too much into them. Feel free to research in your own time. But the thing that I was going for the redesign is I really wanted to showcase that elegance that I was talking about earlier. And because of that, these are kind of like the fonts that I had in my, can you guys see my Illustrator? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it. If anyone can't see it, once again, just enter it into the chat.
Yeah. So when I was going through this, all I really did was I looked up on Google what kind of fonts kind of like evoke this sense of elegance. And what I found is that even if you go into like Crown Casino website or anything else, you'll notice that a lot of them either use these really elegant cursive fonts or they have like these really thin serif fonts. And you know what I decided eventually, some of these don't even convey elegance. For example, this just that's just not elegant at all. It's more like open and friendly, which is also kind of what I'm going for. It was a really hard balance trying to be like elegant and also friendly at the same time. So these are just like kind of my drafts. You know, you're gonna go through these. So if you're ever doing like a design process document, it's good to document the different steps, the different variations you decided, because that's how they see your thought process. And also you need to justify why you use a specific font. Now, I actually ended up deciding with this one. And the reason for that is because I think for me, it's the right balance of being open and friendly, but also having that sense of sophistication and elegance to your website. So yeah, cool. So that's how I decided my fonts. And then in terms of colors, we're gonna talk a little bit about color theory. I'm gonna share my website again. I'm gonna share my Google Chrome. All right. So going back to my Google Chrome, just gonna look into colors. Because they want to stick to Italian colors, which is red, green, and white, I actually decided to like make the decision to cut that down to just red and white, because I found that because red and green are 2 really vibrant colors, like you really do not want them to just kind of like go together. And it's kind of like, because I didn't have much time, like I'm sure you can make it work, but I just wanted to stick to a monochromatic scheme where I go into red and I kind of just like pick a red from this. Yeah.
Sorry, what site, like, how did you get here?
Okay. So I'm just showing you the resources on how I do that. So there's lots of ways that you can pick a color palette. One of them is color.adobe.com. If you just look up online color palettes, you'll find lots of types of these. And also I'll send these resources out later as well. But basically the way you can pair colors, there's many different ways. There's analogous, which is just like colors that are like pretty close to each other. For example, red, orange, and yellow are pretty close together, or maybe yellow, green, and orange, they're pretty close together. Purple, pink, and red. So these are analogous colors. Oh, actually, that's really nice. And then monochromatic is like when you're using different shades of the same color. There's also triad, which is like when you draw a triangle on the color wheel. So obviously, it's up to you to experiment with these. You know, I'm not stopping you in your own time. Probably if you want to redesign this, go into here and see if you can find a good color palette. But for me, I decided on monochromatic because I found that having two colors that were very bright, which is red and green. I don't know if you guys see the Italian flag, but they're very contrasting. I wanted to take the focus away less on the colors and more on the actual product. And that's why I decided with the red. Okay, so I'm going to share Illustrator again. All right, so now we're going to go into the actual redesign. So the first thing that we want is the hero image. Like I said earlier, oh my God, I have to go and show again. So like I said earlier, it's good to have lots of images. Because we wanted an image there, the way I found the images for this website was by going onto unsplash.com. So if I go into here and I look up Unsplash, there's lots of other pages that you can get images from, but I just have to go into Unsplash and I just typed in pizza. And the first thing that I saw that looks really good, I was like obviously you scan all of these, but the reason I chose this specific banner was because it really showed you the pizza really well. And it was a little bit dark as well, which is good for me because it makes the text more legible. Like if you put a white text on like a darker background, then it's a lot easier to see compared to like putting it over here. And also some of them, this one just didn't have like a really good background. You know, there was too much going on. It was really distracting. And so I didn't want that. This one was nice, but it's just not the right ratio that I want. If I cropped it out to a rectangle, it would crop my pizza and I don't want that either. So you just got to be picky. This one was also a good photo right here on this left, but like I didn't want that because it wasn't showing the pizza. And my focus really is to showcase the pizza and how good they are, right? So knowing that, I'm going to share again my Illustrator and hopefully we can get started on the design of the hero image. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import this image. So assume that you've downloaded the image, right? Assume that it's all in your documents folder or downloads folder or whatever. The way we're going to place an image into Illustrator is by pressing Command-Shift-P or Control-Shift-P on Windows. And then you go into the folder that the zip file that you guys downloaded. And then if you go into images, I've already like downloaded all the images there for you. So yeah, is everyone having trouble finding the folders that they downloaded earlier?
Sorry, was it Command-Shift-P?
Yeah, Command-Shift-P.
Yep. To open it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Command-Shift-P takes you to your file manager. So just locate the zip file that we asked you guys to download. You should have uncompressed it by now. If you haven't already, uncompress it now.
Yep. So Yesha's asking where is the folder?
It's under images. Wait, did you guys download the zip file from earlier?
Yep. Let me relink it. So if you download zip file, it's just in images, and then it's the first one, right?
Yeah. So obviously you gotta uncompress. You gotta uncompress the zip file first, and then the folder should be there. And then under images, you should see the very first one called Ivan Taurus something something unsplash.jpg. So just click on that and then press place. And then now you should see on your Illustrator, you have this like triangle thingy icon with like the image. Just click on anywhere on your screen, like click on anywhere in the white area. And then now you should see that your image is right there. By the way, to zoom out, you just gotta pinch your fingers like that or like that. You can also do command minus or control minus and control plus or command plus to zoom out. No, actually zoom in, sorry. Yeah, I really like to use a trackpad here because it's a lot easier than a mouse. But yeah, so once you have your image on the screen, just click on that and then you're gonna click and hold to the left or like anywhere until the corner. You'll notice that Adobe Illustrator actually snaps your elements. So just keep moving it until the upper left corner snaps onto the upper left corner of your artboard. Like you'll notice in my screen, there's like pink lines, which shows that, oh yeah, it's like you're putting your image to the very edge. Is everyone following this so far?
Yep, no questions. Any questions? Just answer them in the chat and I'm watching it.
Okay, yeah, so you guys might probably notice that my screen is a little bit too, my image is a little bit too big for my artboard, for my screen. And so what we're going to do is you're going to click on the image and then you'll see that there's like squares on the bottom, on like on the corners and the edges of your image. And so on the bottom right, you just want to click that and drag. Wait, also, you'll notice that if you click on something and then drag it, it like resizes your image, but then it loses the like original aspect ratio. So if you look at my screen, I'm going to resize it like this and it looks like it's stretched out. And so you don't want that, yeah? If you want to keep the original like ratio of the image, while you're clicking and dragging, you need to hold shift. So just keep on holding shift until your image is like the same width as your artboard. And make sure you're aligning to the width, right? It's okay if your height is like going past your artboard, but the width has to be the same, like this. All right, so once you guys have that, now we're gonna probably crop. Now we're gonna crop this image because it is too big for our screen. So what's gonna happen is this is the size of this is like the size of the screen that that most people are gonna see when they first come in. So because it is too big, what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the image and towards the very top, you'll see this crop image. So can everyone just please click on crop image at the top there? It's like right next to mask and image trace. And once you're there, you'll see that the outside is kind of like grayed out and all you can see is your image. Now just resize you'll see there's like more rectangles there with dotted lines. So just resize your rectangle until it's the same size as your artboard. And then once you're done, just press enter or click on apply at the very top. Either one works. And then click out of the image. And then now your image should be the same size as your landing page. Cool. Gonna wait 5 seconds. Hopefully everyone has it. Now, what I'm gonna do now is I want to layer stuff on top of this image. And to make sure that I don't accidentally move this image like left and right like that,
yeah,
I'm going to lock it.
Sorry, Jasmine. Someone just said they weren't able to follow that part. So did you just drag the image? I can message them privately, but it was just dragging the image with shift and then cropping it, right?
Which part was it? Was it the cropping or the dragging? Yeah, it's just making sure your image is like fits your artboard. Yeah.
Yep, sure. I answered
the
cropping part.
Yeah. Okay, so once you've got that, before we just like once we move on, yeah, we'll just wait for him. But basically, if you guys are finished, you need to just click on your image and hold Control 2 or Command 2. And what that does is it locks your image. So now, if you try and like click on your image and move it somewhere else on the page, it doesn't let you. And this is like a really good way to just like lock your images so that you can place stuff on top of it without accidentally moving stuff around. If you want to unlock it though, you just have to do Command Option 2 or Control Option 2. And then message in the chat if you have issues locking and unlocking stuff. Cool. Okay, so
someone asked, how do you lock it? What command was it? Command 2? Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it would be good if you could type the commands in the chat as well while we're doing.
Yep, I've been doing that. Oh, good.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Command 2 to lock it and Command Option 2 to unlock, and just change that to Control if you're in Windows.
Command Option 2 to unlock, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So now we're going to move on to actually placing our text and images. So what you might notice is that here in my thing, you'll see that there's like, this is what the final navigation bar, that's how I want it to look like. You'll see that like there's text here, and I didn't just like place them there randomly. What I actually did was I have a grid like this. Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I had is I have a grid that looks somewhat like this. And really what this is like, you'll notice that if you go into eBay, well, I think it's eBay. I don't know, if you go into most websites, you'll notice that a lot of them like follow this grid pattern. There's like two key reasons that I can think of why people use this. One of them is that you use Bootstrap, because like it's just a lot easier to align items because Bootstrap already does it for you. So if you want to make items that span all of these columns, then that's really easy to do. If you want to make something that only spans 3 columns each, like that, and you want to make another one like that, super easy to do. There's like one element. Like there's something you can do in Bootstrap. I've never done Bootstrap, so I can't say anything, but I think that makes it easier. And the second advantage to using grids is because if you like, it's because it's just easier on the eye. It's like going back to the thing we talked about with structure. If things are layered neatly and there's like some organization to it and like structure, it's a lot easier for users to know where they're supposed to be going. So for example, if you look in newspapers, you'll see that a lot of them kind of like have the three columns and stuff like that. Those are actually like, there's actually invisible grids there. Like it's not physically there, but you kind of like just interpret it as being there. Like your brain just does these things. Oh yeah, there's a grid there. And it just makes it a lot easier for you to like read it from top to bottom and left to right. Yeah.
Jasmine, someone asked, how do we get the grids again?
Oh, I was gonna go to that part now.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, I just wanted to explain. Okay,
yeah,
so to actually make these grids, what you're gonna do is grab your rectangle thingy. Yep. And then you're gonna start by like picking any random point, right? So go to the top of your, snap this cursor to the top of your artboard, and then just make like a rectangle all the way to the very bottom. So it's gonna be a little bit big, or it's gonna be small, I don't know. Just make a rectangle that goes from top to bottom. Now, obviously, the convention is that people usually make 12 grids. So as you can see here, there's 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And obviously, if your grids is this thick, you're not gonna fit 12 in there. So you have to do just like a little bit of like measurements there. The way what I found to actually fit was 140 pixels. So just click on your rectangle with your selection tool, and on the right, you'll see under transform, you'll see there's like X, Y, and WH. So on W, just change that to, wait, what did I make this? Just change this to 75. Sorry. Yep. So once your grids are 75 in length, so has everyone got this so far?
Seems to be good. No one's being in the chat.
Yep. Okay. So now we're gonna like make another exact identical copy of this rectangle. And the way we do that in Illustrator is you click and hold it, and then you hold the Option key. You hold the Option key, and then when you drag this and let go, actually, when you drag this and you hold the Option key, wait, why isn't mine working? Am I doing something wrong? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So if you click on this and you drag it and you hold the Alt key, and then you let go, but don't let go with the Alt key just yet, you'll see that you'll make another copy of the rectangle. So yeah, Command and Option, or Control and Option to make a copy, but we want this to be like in the same line, yeah? So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna hold Command, I'm gonna click it, and then I'm gonna hold Command, Shift, and Option, and I'm gonna drag it to the right. The reason I'm holding Shift is because I want it to like move to the right in like a straight angle. So Shift just like helps you move your objects in like increments of 45 degrees. So you can move it like 0 degrees, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180. I don't know what's in between 90, 180, but it also lets you move that way. So it's just like Shift just helps you straighten your items out. Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, Alt works. All right, so now we want to fill in, fill in this middle with like the rest of the rectangles. So far we have 2 rectangles, yeah? So click on both of your rectangles, and the way you do that is you click on one, and then you hold your shift key, and you click on the other one, and that should now select both your rectangles, right? So once you've selected it, you go into your object at the very top, similar to where Windows was, click on Object, and then go to the bottom and click on Blend. And then on Blend, click on Make. You can also use that using Command Alt B or Control Alt B. And once you click on Make, you should see that there's now a lot of rectangles in the middle. Yep. And then, but this is not what we want.
So what was so it was Object, Blend, and then Make?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Now we're gonna just like go back, click on the item again, click on these two rectangles. We're gonna go into Object. We're gonna go back into Blend, and then we're gonna select Blend options. So we want 12 grids, right? So we need to go into spacing, and you wanna specify the number of steps. So because we already have 2 on the outside, however many more we need more and like in between is 10. And so in our specified steps, we're gonna write 10 because that's how many more rectangles we need in between. So just click on that and then press OK. And now you should have 10 rectangles.
Jasmine,
12 rectangles.
Can you quickly go through how you got so many rectangles again?
So click on both of your rectangles, highlight them. So click one rectangle and then hold Shift to click on the other one. And then there's a command, use Command Alt B to get those many rectangles.
Are you typing the command or
yeah.
Command Alt B?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I sent it to the wrong person. Yeah, and then once you've got that, you need to go back into Object at the very top. Go to Object and then Blend, Blend options.
Yep, they got it.
And then specified steps is 10. Okay, so now you can see that it's not really aligned yet. What I want this to be. So now what I want is to like align this to the center. Yep, so the way I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna, I'm gonna unlock everything. So I'm gonna unlock my pizza. So I'm gonna do that by pressing Command Alt 2. And then once you've unlocked everything, are you holding Alt?
Are you reading the chat?
Yeah.
Yep, so click it and then hold Alt and Shift. Alt is the one that duplicates it pretty much.
Yeah, Alt duplicates and Shift lets you move around in like 45-degree angles.
Just message here if you still can't do it and I'll help you out.
Also with your rectangles, can you guys just, okay, cool. Make sure you let go of your mouse before you let go of the Alt key. Yeah. Also, so now because your image and your rectangle is like unlocked, make sure you've unlocked it. Command Alt 2. Once you've unlocked it, just click from anywhere and then drag to like highlight. This is kind of like when you're highlighting your text, right? Just click and drag up until like that square is like touching one of those. And then once all of them is selected, you need to go look on the right. You'll see align options. So this is how you align your items. And then I'm gonna align center like this. This is horizontally align center. And I'm also gonna align vertical. So now your rectangle should be right in the middle. And your rectangles might not look like mine. Like I'm just saying. So once you've got that, highlight both of your rectangles and make sure you snap it back to the edge of your grid. Right, cool so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wait, someone doesn't have 2 rectangles. Yeah. Oh, are you good to help him?
Yeah, I'm good to help them. Okay. Just explaining. If it doesn't work, can you go through making a rectangle again by any chance?
Do you want to go to breakout rooms?
Okay, sure. I don't know how to, but sure.
That's same.
I'm
Anyway,
just typing it. I'll type it to you. Sorry, all good.
yeah, sure. So now once you've got these rectangles, your rectangles are probably either further away than mine or closer together. So I think what I've done is just kind of like eyeball the edge. Let me see. So, grab your rectangle shape again. Grab your rectangle tool by pressing the M button. And like snap it to the edge of your artboard like usual, and then just draw it like this, like any size. And then we're gonna resize the shape again, probably 160. I think that's good. Make sure the width is 160.
Yep, Jasmine, someone just asked, how did you get the align options?
Sorry?
How did you get the align options? Like, you know how you aligned it?
You need to be holding. You need to be holding at least 2 items. Like you need to be selecting at least 2 items. So you click on your item, click on your background, hold shift, click on your rectangles, and then your align options should show up. If you're only selecting 1 item, it's not going to be there. Okay, so now that you've got your rectangle, now that you've drawn your rectangle, this is going to be width 160. As you can see there, I'm going to snap it back to the edge of my grid, and that's going to be like kind of my margin. That's what's going to guide me on how far apart and how further left I should put my grids. So now I want to copy this rectangle back to the right. So the way we copy again is you hold it, you press Alt and then Shift, and then drag it to the right corner like this. So now I have my 2 margins.
Rectangles, you click on that, and then you double click it. Yep.
Yep, Jasmine, I can't hear you.
I'm gonna double click again.
Yep, all good.
Now I'm gonna double click again into this left side. So yeah, keep double clicking here until you see that the background kind of like grays out. That just lets you know that you've selected this item specifically. And then double click again on the left one. No, actually you don't need to double click, you just, wait, click outside and then double click it and then move that so that it snaps to your margin on the left. And then you do the same thing on the item on the right, to snap there, and then you'll get the grid and the spacing that you want. And if it's not working, and if what you're doing is you're finding that when you're moving this, it's moving everything, it means you haven't double clicked enough into your rectangles, and just keep double clicking. Yep, so once you've got that, you can click on your 2 rectangles on the left and right. I mean your squares, sorry. You can click on your 2 squares now, and you can just press your delete button and delete them because that's your grid. Done. Okay, so now that your grid is ready, I'm just gonna drag this back up because I don't want my grid like, now actually, before we drag it back up, because everyone, I'm gonna wait 5 more seconds to make sure everyone has this. Okay, so now click on your grid again, and then on the right-hand side, click on these 2 circles, kind of like overlapping each other. Oh, sorry, so if you've double-clicked into your rectangles, just click anywhere outside those, keep clicking until everything's not grayed out again. Because you'll notice that if you're double-clicking, the entire background's grayed out, but just click anywhere out of it to go out of that like state.
Someone asks, how do I make all my rectangles connected?
I don't know what that means, I'm sorry. What does that mean?
Wait, can you message in the chat, when you click it, are you moving individual rectangles? Like it's not one object?
You're moving individual rectangles. So you want to click on it, double click into the rectangle, and then once you're in it, double click again until you can select the individual rectangle on the right and on the left.
So if you make the blend, if you use the rectangles using blend, then it should be one object, right?
Yeah, if you didn't use it using blend, that's fine. All you have to do is like highlight all of them and go into a line. There's these 3 dots and then space them out evenly. If you didn't use blend. But if you did use blend, then like all your rectangles should be connected. If it's not connected, don't worry. That's fine.
Cool. Thank
As
you.
long as they're spaced out. But yeah, so now you've got this. You go into these 2 circles on the right-hand side, and we're going to change the opacity. I'm going to lower it to like 30, 20 actually, just so that it's kind of visible, but it's not distracting. Oh, how do I decide the width? I really just see how many 12 rectangles I can fit and still having like a decently sized margin on the left and right. You know, I could have easily just like moved these rectangles like there, and that would be fine. Like really, it's up to you. But like because I wanted like that big of a margin, and yeah, I just kind of decided what sizes my rectangles have to be to have kind of like a grid in the middle. Yeah, it's a lot of like estimation. Oh, if you want to distribute evenly, highlight all your rectangles like this. And make sure you deselect from your other item. And then you should go into align. There's 3 dots here. And then in distribute spacing, this one will distribute your rectangles evenly, like horizontally.
Jasmine, someone asked, how do you change the spacing between the rectangles? Can you do that with blend?
The spacing between the rectangles.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that with blend.
Is it just clicking it and then specified steps? Or?
Instead of specified steps, you do specified. Because steps is like how many rectangles you want in between.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Now you guys have probably lowered your opacities, right? Once you've lowered it, just move it out of view, because Illustrator will snap your items regardless. Like because they're there, they will snap to these middle lines. So we don't really care about that. One last thing though, once you've dragged it upwards, click on your rectangles. And then we're going to go into object and expand. This will make our items not connected because we don't want them connected. We went through all those extra steps because we just don't want them connected. Yep. Because if they're connected, Illustrator doesn't recognize that they're distinct shapes, and it's not going to help you snap your items into your grid. Cool. So now that we got this, I'm going to click on my image again and lock it. So Command 2 to lock your image in the background. And the way I am going to make our text legible is by adding another rectangle. So click on your rectangle icon, press M on your keyboard, and then snap it to the top left of your grid. And then draw a rectangle to fill your whole artboard. And then click back to your selection tool, which is V on the keyboard. All right, and then like this, click on your rectangle again. Now we want to change the color to make it a little bit more darker. We're going to overlay a little bit of a black so that you can easily see the text on top of it. So we're going to do that by clicking on our rectangle. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see the 2 squares you were talking about earlier with your fill and stroke. So in your fill, just double click that and then just select black. Also, by the way, if you're not familiar with hex colors, the way hex colors works is if you select any color there, you'll see that hex colors is just like a 6-character combination of letters and numbers. And this just somehow magically turns it into a color, you know, like there's lots of color palettes online. They'll probably give you the hex color. So if they start with like this hash and there's 6 digits, 6 characters, then that's a hex color code. So it's useful when you're trying to get colors off the internet. But we're just going to type in 0000, which is the hex color for black. Otherwise, you can just click anywhere towards the bottom. Any one of these is black. It doesn't matter. They're all 000. Once you get it, just press OK. And your screen should now be black because you put the black rectangle there.
Sorry, Jasmine, quick question. Someone's asking, how do you center the rectangles in the grid again?
Sorry?
How do you center the rectangles in the grid? Was that the line?
The center, yeah, you have to align it with your image.
Okay.
The image is the same size as your rectangle.
Yeah, thank you.
No. Now your rectangle is black. We're going to change the opacity again. So in your opacity, it's on the right toolbar. It's the two circles that looks like they're merging together. And then your opacity, I'm going to reduce mine to about 30%. No, actually, I'm going to make it like 50, just because 30, I feel like white text isn't going to be legible still. And also, if you make a mistake, Command Z. And if you want to if you kind of like accidentally Command Z and you want to bring it back, it's Command Shift Z. Command Shift Z is redo, undo is Command Z. Yeah, so I'm gonna make mine 50%. I think that's what I made my original. Didn't know. We'll see. Okay. Next thing we're gonna do is I wanna lock this layer. So Command 2, just so I don't accidentally touch it ever again. And then we're gonna import our logo again. So Command Shift P takes you to a file manager, and then click on logo transparent. Like import the transparent logo. So the logo actually wasn't transparent before. I had to go into Photoshop and make it transparent. There's tutorials online on how to do that, but we don't have time. So just click on the transparent one. And what I'm gonna do is when I'm placing it, I wanna zoom in and lock it to the edge of your leftmost grid, like this. I wanna place my logo right there. So, and then because it's too big, I want to actually resize it. And I think I want this logo to take up 2 grids. And so as you can see, my logo is perfectly aligned to the edge of this first grid and this second grid. And like, so whoever's developing the website, it's a lot easier. And remember to use Shift when you're resizing, otherwise you're changing the ratio of your image. Yeah, so that is going to be our logo. I don't like how big the logo is, but like we can't really do much about it. It's going to take up a lot of the navigation bar, but whatever. If you want to make it smaller, if you only want to take up half the grid, that's fine too. Probably what I'm going to do because it's too big, but it's also okay if you don't. Now we're going to make the actual navigation bar. So as you can see, I wanted the navigation bar to be like a little to stand out more from like the rest of the hero image. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make it slightly darker. So as you can see, because there's like this barrier here, you'll notice a lot of websites do this. It's simply the reason for that is to make it stand out a little bit more. So you go into your rectangle tool again, the usual snap to your top left, and then create some sort of like a rectangle. I'm not going to define like a specific size, just like do it with your eyes. Like if you think that's good enough, then that's good enough. Also, we want to bring this a little bit to the back. We want to bring this behind the logo. And so if you remember, that's Command left square bracket. So just do Command left square bracket. Keep doing that until your logo is on the top of your rectangle. And then again, change the opacity of rectangle on the right toolbar. Your transparency should probably reduce it down to 20 or 30, like, I don't know, experiment and see what works for you. I'm just gonna put 30, just because it's there. Yeah, and then now we've got pretty much like an outline of our navigation bar. Cool, so I feel like for this workshop, we're only gonna get to do the hero image. And so I wanted to show you guys a really quick tutorial on how to like resize this. So obviously, because our artboard is really small, this only fits one screen, right? How are you going to do like the rest of your landing pages? And the way you can adjust your artboard is if you go into the right toolbar, you click on this, you click on the bottommost icon, which says artboards. And then if you double click on this icon here, which looks like a document with like extra lines, you'll be able to like see the size of your artboard. Now, if you like the size of the mockup that I actually did was 15,000 pixels. So if you want to resize that, you can go ahead. Obviously, you don't know what the size of your website is going to be. So it's cool to just like keep resizing this as you go. So yeah, I'm going to change mine to 15,000. And as you can see, it actually expands it from the middle to the top. So that's why my image ended up all the way in the middle. And yeah, so once you've got your artboard like that, just highlight everything. If you can't highlight something, it means it's locked. So unlock it by pressing Command Option 2. So now you've unlocked it. And once you've unlocked it, select everything and move it back to the very top. Yep. So just keep moving it until it's at the very top, like this. And now that should be the very start of your website. So that now you have lots of space to like do the rest of it. Okay, so now we're gonna try and now we're gonna lock the rest of this. We're gonna lock everything again. Command 2, so click and drag until you're highlighting all the images, and then Command 2 to lock it. And now we're gonna add some text. Click on T on your keyboard, and then just click anywhere on the screen. If you've clicked on the screen and it didn't show a text, just press delete on your keyboard and try again, and maybe press on a different point on your screen. Because Adobe has a glitch where if you use your text button and you press on a screen and it doesn't show up, it means you pressed something weird and just like redo it again. And then what I actually want my text to be is delivery promotions. So just click on your text icon, highlight everything, Command A, Control A, and then just type delivery promotions. And you wanna, yeah, I'm gonna wait for you guys quickly. And then highlight all of that again. And the font that I'm using, if you've already installed, you should have already installed this. The font that I use is Southampton. So the way you can change the font is you go back to the very top, or you go on the right, just under character, you'll see that the current font is Myriad Pro, that's always a default. I'm gonna change that to Southampton. And then you'll also see like the sizing. I'm probably gonna increase mine to 250 point, no, that's too big. I'm gonna change mine to 150, still too big, 125, should be good. It's 125 points for me. So now, as you can see, it's black. I can't see anything. And we're going to change this color. So this is the same thing for our rectangles. You go onto your left-hand side, you will see that there's like the fill is black. So just double click that and just click and drag until you get white, or just write down F, 6 Fs, and that's the hex code for white. Yeah. So now you should be able to see that this is now giving you like a little bit of a better contrast than the white on the other image, and like just the pure image that you would see in the other background. Just for context, if you guys really wanted to see what it would look like if we didn't have the gradient, it would look like this. So even now it's still really hard to read, and that's why people just like to add that black overlay, because like in this way you're showing off your product, but also it's easy to read. And also, just a tip, if you guys find that it's still very hard to read, what I would do is I would click on the text, and then you should probably try this out as well. You go up into Effect, and then Stylize. So Effect is in the same toolbar as your window and your object, and then go into Stylize, and then Stylize should have the option of Drop Shadow. So make sure Preview is ticked so you can see what the shadows look like. And X Offset is just like, you know, your X axis where the shadow is going to be. Just fill that in. I'm probably gonna put 5, 5. Actually, I want -5. And then the opacity. This is just how visible your shadows are and how not visible they are. So I think I want it to be pretty visible because it is a really thin font. Like I really do not recommend using a thin font like this, but I wanted to really convey that elegance. And because of that, we're gonna have to make like sacrifices along the way. So we need a really thick shadow just to make sure that this is legible. And then the blur. The blur is just how much the shadow spreads out. I'm gonna make mine like 10 or something. And then press OK when you're done. And you should see, if you zoom in, there's like some subtle shadows in there. Yeah, zoom into your screen. Okay, if you don't have Southampton, just use any other font. Like I would recommend using a serif font, whatever. Yeah, so now the next thing you have to do is, make sure your grid is back where it should be. I lost my grid. So I'm just gonna realign that, yeah. So never lose your grid, right? Okay, so I'm going to realign my text to the edge of my grid. And the way I do that is I'm going to hold shift, I'm clicking on my text, and I'm clicking on my grid, and I'm realigning to the very left. Yeah, and then there we go. It's aligned. So this is like a pretty good starting point. Okay. So now we're just going to learn how to make, as you can see, there's also the second text here. This is pretty much the same thing. We're not going to do this one. This is just like your character, latte. Like this font is using latte. Yeah, can everyone just look on my screen real quickly? Because I don't think we have enough time to go through everything. But I really want to show you guys how to use this to kind of like improve your UX. So looking at my screen, what I did here is I paired Southampton with the font latte. So this is like pairing a cursive font with a sans serif font. The reason we use sans serif for digital devices is because the resolution is a lot lower. There's less pixels per inch compared to like in real life where it's just like ultra HD. And if you use sans serif fonts, there's like everything is very clear. There's none of those like finer details that might get lost, like the lower resolution your screen is. And that's the only reason. And then one thing I would like really advise you guys to like make your text more legible is to like play around with the spacing. So if I click on this paragraph, if I click on this text here, like there's all these numbers on the right hand side. This is the size of your font, this one. The one at the top left is the size of your font. The one on the top right is actually the line spacing, which is the spacing between one line to another. So if I increase this to like 150, oh wait, you can't see it anymore. If I increase this to like, okay, wait, hold on. So if I put this to like 120, you can see that it's a lot, there's more space now. But if I put that back to like 80, you can see that it's a lot closer. Now, if I put this down to like even more like 40, you can see that it's very hard to read. And so I'd recommend that if you find that your texts are really cramped, just adjust your line spacing and just keep experimenting. You know, I don't always get everything the first go. You have to really look at it several times. And then a couple other things is, look at the bottom right, this is like your word, this is your letter spacing. This is the space between your letters. So if I put this to like a really big number, like say 400, you can see that my characters are suddenly more spaced out. Now, if I reduce that to like 40 or like negative, this can go to negatives by the way, you can see that they're all just kind of like cramped together. So again, if you're feeling like things are cramped, just readjust them. It's probably just your spacing with your letters. And also it's not just spacing with your letters as well. It's also about the spacing with the other elements of your website. For example, if you just have a look into this menu could easily have been like cramped. This could easily have been just a cramp. So the way I did this, by the way, was I have like several texts and then I just highlighted all of them. So what you can do here is if you can just move them around. So if I move my home button there and I highlight all of them and I go into align and I go to distribute spacing, and then if I distribute evenly, that's going to distribute all the spaces evenly around each of these texts. And as you can see, like these are a little bit too far apart. It doesn't even fit into my navigation bar. But then if I like move them all closer together like this and I try and distribute that evenly, you can see that everything's too close together and that might be harder to read and it's harder for the user to distinguish like what the different sections of your menus are. And so I would highly recommend that, like just playing around with the spacing. Also, I ended up actually settling on this red. And the reason for that is honestly, all I did was like, I went to the color picker and just picked like a random red color. But I definitely recommend you guys to use the Adobe color wheel palette from earlier. So just color.adobe.com, but you can also just Google it, look up Adobe color palette. So it allows you to like play more with different color combinations, but I wanted to go with like just red. So as you can see, my text here, I used like kind of like a darker red. I didn't actually use black, but like the important thing is that you have like certain colors that you use to highlight certain information. So as you can see in my banner here, I use like red for my button. And instead of, I didn't use white, you know, I could have just as easily used white, but I wanted to make it stand out because like we said earlier, this specific company, restaurant, they really wanted to highlight the fact that they had online ordering. And so to do that, I wanted to just make a red button and did. And I even added this extra red button here, just again, signifying that, yeah, we have online ordering, and there you go. It's right there. The next part I wanted to go through was the About Us section. Again, this was just using grids. So if I move the grid here, you can clearly see that what I'm doing here is I'm following like a 3 column grid. And what I did was I aligned this to these four grids, so like 4 of these. And the reason we use 12 is because it's such a flexible number, yeah? You can divide it into like 6, you can divide it into like 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns, and it works. So yeah, experiment with like using these different grids. You can even like do stuff like, you know, like for example, like use different number of columns for like the same rows, like that's definitely okay. Also notice that I use like red for a lot of buttons all throughout, for a lot of them. And then I kind of like broke that rule when it comes to this. So notice that here I use like a 3 column grid for the About Us section, but then when it came to this banner here, I've kind of like used that entire like grid and I kind of like spanned this banner for all of it. And the reason for that is even though that is breaking the law of like consistency, like designers tend to break laws, but it's okay to break laws, but you have to break them for a good reason. Like if you break the law of consistency, that means you're trying to draw attention to something and that's okay. But just remember to not use it all the time because, you know, like the thing from Incredible says, if everything is like drawing attention to itself, then nothing's like drawing attention to itself. And it just instead makes your like design look very convoluted. And so, yeah, it's okay to break rules, but don't use them very often. It's a good way to like get your thing to stand out. And also, as you can see, this image here, I added like a little bit of a gradient. I recommend you guys to go into YouTube tutorials to like how to do these. Also, this mockup AI is also available in the resources that you guys downloaded, so feel free to just have a look at that. Also, in the menu section, I added this thing. I added like a separate menu bar. So the idea is like, you're probably wondering, oh, why do we have 2 menu bars? The idea is like this would be fixed to the screen. And then this other menu bar would only pop up if you scroll up, yeah? So the reason I added this is because they do have a lot of items in their menu. And so I thought that users would benefit from like being able to navigate through the different items in that menu. What I don't have here is like a list option. You know how some people prefer to view lists instead of viewing like large icons? So in your website redesign, you might consider, oh, maybe there's like users might prefer to view things in a different way rather than like this. And so definitely look into that. You know, I didn't do it here, but feel free to do it in your own time. Also, you'll notice that I kind of like changed the hierarchy for the text. I kind of like added the price on the right, and then I looked at the name on the left. And really the reason for this is that if you go into Uber Eats, Deliveroo, or wherever else, this is what they normally do. Like this is, again, going back into that principle of familiarity where people tend to use other websites more than yours. And so you might as well just follow what everyone else is doing because users expect your website to look the same. So yeah, again, we're using grids here. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that there's also another principle where if you group things together, like if things are closer together, they look like, you kind of assume that they group together. So for example, when looking at this, you'll see that because this pizza image is closer to this than it is to others, you kind of like assume that these two are grouped together. Yeah, 2 minutes. You assume that like these two are grouped together. And then because all of these items are close together, you assume that there's this thing is a separate group to your menu. It's so like definitely make use of your negative space, your white space, and all of these spacings, because the amount of space that you put in is gonna like determine how your users are gonna perceive whether things are grouped together and whether they're not grouped together. And the reason that we need things to be grouped together is because it's for like scanning, you know? When have you ever actually gone to a website and like actually read the entire thing? Most people just like go into a website and try and find what they need. And it makes it easier for them to find what they need if you help them by like grouping items into like certain groups. And you do that by adjusting the spacing. Yeah, so finally, I didn't forget about the contact section. Like I kind of just like, this is supposed to be a map. I couldn't be bothered getting a map, but really contact us looks like every other section. This is another thing, you know, familiarity. Like I use this font for all my headlines, and then I use this for all my text. That way it helps your users divide your website into different sections. So as you can see, this is the contact us section, the menu section, the about us section, the ordering section. Make use of all of these like different sections and groupings and spaces. And yeah, I hope you guys, that's all for me today. I really hope that you guys go and like look up on YouTube on how to actually do some of these. Like, cause like, I know we didn't get to go through a lot of them, but feel free to do it in your own time, and also use YouTube. It's a really good resource. Yeah, before we wrap up, just wanted to ask if people had any questions before we go. You're muted.
Sorry, thank you. You have one here. So, Osob, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. They said, if there's not much going on the website you're modifying, how can you go about thinking about the intention for the website?
So if there's, so I really need to see your website for me to understand, but I'll give you like an example. I actually came across this problem earlier. So there's this website called Connie's Pizza, which I actually really like because of how simple it is. But you can really like take away a lot from this website. So this is another pizza website that I was looking at. All it is like there's a pizza calendar. It shows you the information, and then there's a grammar, and then this is like the menu. So you can see it's really simple, right? But just from looking at this, there's a lot of things that you can take away from it. So if you look at the images, first of all, the first thing you notice is that there's lots of like the grandma's image is just repeating in the background. So what does like that grandma like signify to you, right? So it makes you think of your grandma's cooking, and your grandma is also someone that you really probably love. And so it just invokes that kind of like emotion that, oh yeah, this restaurant is really gonna care for me. They're gonna try and give me what I want, and it's gonna remind me of my grandma's cooking. And it just gives you that like warm feeling. And so if you're gonna redesign something like this, you wanna make sure that you convey the exact same emotions of like you seeing your grandma. And also like, yeah. And also you might see that because it is just like kind of like placed randomly on this website, you kind of notice that, oh yeah, so they have like a playful tone to it. So they don't take themselves seriously, kind of like your grandma, right? So it's all about this. So even though there's a structure to this website, like you can see these are all organized properly, because of that kind of like disorganized thing in the background, they kind of like trying to convey that, oh yeah, they're gonna give you what you want, like your pizza, but they're kind of like playful and fun, and they're open to like new things. And also have a look at the font, look at the colors. This one's like actually made really good use of red and green. It really makes you think of like Italy. Yeah, don't know what else to say. It's pretty good. But yeah, yeah, just really think about how it makes you feel. Sounds dumb, but it's just what you do. Does anyone else have questions?
No, that is all.
Okay.
Cool. Do you have like a final slide or something to show how people can contact you if they have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you want to quickly type into URL right there so I can show people, or like a doc?
Oh, wait, isn't my contact in like the Cutley Meet Jasmine or something?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so if you guys go into this link, Cutley Meet Jasmine, I think all my details are there. Like you can message me on, you can feel free to reach out